sexy people. It's Dave. It's Duncan.
You made that sound as if, like... Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. You made it... What's up?
I feel like I'm, just chilled. This, like, we're sliding into December here, Duncan.
We are.
We've got the chill tunes on the go.
My tree's up.
Oh, look at that.
Well, my review tree. This is in the room that no one comes into except me.
Right.
So I have a tree, which is all goth and black and shit. So...
I feel rather...
I mean...
Christmas-less.
Right, yeah. But what the people don't know is I know for a fact, were you to turn your laptop right now, it's fucking Santa's grotto, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even joking, like Dave's, that is the only corner of Dave's house.
There's a snowman.
Yeah, there's the only corner of Dave's house which doesn't have tinsel.
Yeah.
Your house is so festive you floss with tinsel. That in the morning.
Ridiculous, man. My electricity bill is through the roof right now.
Oh yeah, they're loving it right now.
Oh,
it's the Griswolds. It's fucking. It's just like.
My God.
Might as well just be burning 50s, Dave. Fucking lighting them.
We are back to check out the new album from Indie Shoegaze duo Gleemer.
I can see why it made the list now.
I do love a duo. The band's new album, End of the Nail, will be released on December 6th via Other People Records. End of the Nail is the 5th studio album from the Colorado-based band Gleemer, which arrives in 2024 after a gap of over 4 years from the previous album Down Through. Gleemer is comprised of Corey Kaufman on vocals and guitar, and Charlie O'Neill on guitar, bass, and drums. Oh, nice pronounceable names in this. I love it. And the duo self-produced.
really showing your whiteness about now, Dave, aren't you?
Oh, it's great just not to be reviewing some like
Corey
Norwegian
and Charlie,
band.
my two friends with pronounceable names.
Amazing. The duo self-produced, recorded, mixed, and mastered the new album at Kaufman Studio in Fort Collins. On the album, Kaufman shares, Charlie and I have both grown a lot creatively since the last Gleemer release, and we wanted to make something that was more free and expressive than we'd made before. These songs were all born of different efforts and in different places, and we intentionally would change environments to bring out new ideas. We tried to hold the songs loosely to let them develop into whatever made sense for each track in the moment. A lot of parts were written in the studio. The album to me is about the way we try to create permanence for ourselves and how those efforts affect us. It's hard to tell whether the material we drive ourselves into will be good or bad for us in the end, but we're all pursuing a legacy of some kind. It's about trying to let that go while also exploring the darker side of that instinct and the ways it can unravel. Okay, Gleemer. Kind of crazy that this is the fifth album from this
So not
band.
on your radar then?
Not at all.
Right.
No. But, sexy duo, shoegaze, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Keywords. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I also love, apart from them being a duo and a shoegaze band, is their love for the snare drum, Duncan. My God. That fucking snare drum. My God. When that first strike of the snare landed on Half Smile, my eyes light up like a Christmas tree, Duncan.
Yep. A Christmas tree behind your computer right now. You were like, oh my God.
Jesus. Just the resonance on that snare, the snap, and even the pitch of it, that's a wee chef's kiss of a snare right there. And I have to say, like, while I'm talking production here, the sound of the album, this is a really nice, like, very
so clean, but it's so earthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just there's a warm acousticness about it, which is it's like honey being drizzled in your ears. It's just like really. I don't think that would be nice, but in my mind, not having had honey drizzle in my ears, I just imagine like a warm soothingness that kind of cascades. There's something just very inviting about the production from start to finish on this.
Yeah, I really liked it. Really pleasant. the drums in particular I loved, like just big roomy feel. But the heavier guitars, they're really nice and warm, nice and fuzzy. Just really like the overall sound they captured on this album. Musically, this album has a lot of things going for it. A couple of things that I'll come back to that maybe need a wee bit more development, maybe for me. But as openers go, I really liked how this release started. It's quite a gentle opener. With the use of like acoustic guitars, which they use kind of throughout the album, but that kind of slowly kind of feeds the electric guitars in later in the track, and they finally kind of switch into something more kind of distorted, a bit fuzzier. But what I thought was cool was this, although it's like shoegaze, that shoegaze is like kind of one of the main sounds of the album, and that's like very apparent from the opening track. Gleemer have that kind of like, they have this like delicate, like ethereal shoegaze kind of glow about them, but it's paired with something a bit more indie, a bit more kind of alternative at the same time. Like when I was listening to this, like there's a little bit of like almost a wee bit like kind of Death Cab for Cutie in here a wee bit, more on that kind of like alternative indie side. But weirdly, it also reminded me of a solo kind of singer-songwriter I really like called William Fitzsimmons. He's a kind of predominantly acoustic kind of indie folk, and this had that kind of storyteller type feel to it, and I felt like the lower register of Corey Kaufman, it reminded me a bit of William Fitzsimmons as well. Tracks like Lifetime, where his voice kind of moves into that kind of deep, almost kind of verging on like kind of baritone kind of register. Thought that was very similar. Then there's bits of this that kind of reminds me a little bit of like 40 Watt Sun at the same time. But Corey has a really kind of nice range of tones, and nice kind of registers that he displays on the album. It's always quite subtle. It's kind of shoegaze at the end of the day, but even the harmonies are really kind of soft and kind of gentle, but they do match the kind of the essence of the tracks really well. Guitar work kind of falls into a kind of similar category where you have all these kind of dreamy chords that are like heavily soaked in reverb and a bit of chorus, but then you also get quite intimate and more kind of picked as well at times. Silver Pin's a kind of great example of that, where some of the picking on that reminded me of like Andy McKee at times, but then the chorus slides into something bigger when the guitars become more distorted. But there are tracks on this where the album gets a kind of touch more lively. I really noticed the bass kind of popping out on The Body's Worth, where it kind of comes more at the forefront of the track, and it's got a real kind of texture to the tone of the bass, and it gives the track almost a kind of more kind of groove to it. So there's little kind of subtle changes, little switches. They aren't that dramatic on the album. You've really got to kind of pay attention for them, but I kind of found that my second listen to this album, I picked up on a lot more than I did on the first listen through. Just kind of little things that will kind of pop out. Like they'll occasionally use like a little bit of distortion on the vocals for a section, just to add a little bit more of a kind of climax to a track, or there's a little bit of electronic drums here and there, like maybe an intro here, or a bit of a kind of sample happening in the background. Or they'll add in some kind of lead work just to kind of make it a bit more uplifting and elevate a section. And I felt like the more I listened to the album, the more I started to kind of appreciate the kind of nuances of it. On the kind of flip side, I do think there's some areas on End of the Nail that could maybe be doing with maybe a little pivot here and there. Not even like a curveball as such. Like I'm not expecting them to break into like black metal or anything like that, but I mean, just a kind of maybe just a bigger change in dynamics. As I said, I quite liked when the track got a bit livelier on like The Body's Worth, but it's not an album that kind of changes much in the pace or in the tempo. It's quite typical of shoegaze, so it can often feel like you're kind of within the same kind of feel a lot. It's quite recurring, and it's, a lot of it feels quite safe at times. Like they're in their comfort zone, and they don't really want to kind of move out of that. And that's not to say that they don't change the mood of the album, because there's tracks here that do get slightly more kind of melancholy, but I felt like there were points where I would maybe have liked a bigger shift at times. I think they could have pushed certain elements a little bit further. Vocally, the tone is really nice. I really like the guy's tone, but the vocal kind of rhythm and kind of phrasing is also quite similar throughout the album as well. I think for me, the album's strong points are probably like the first kind of 4 tracks and then the end part of the album. I felt like there's a little bit of a kind of slight kind of lull in the middle of the album, but then the last few tracks kind of raised it back up. I think Behaviour is an awesome track. The build into that second half of the track worked brilliantly, like a really nice choice of melody in the lead work. My Way Down is a really nice kind of rhythm to it, where the drum starts on a kind of offbeat, and vocally I think it's got one of the best kind of hooks on the album. And then Bottleneck closed the album kind of like I expected. It was very tranquil and serene, just quite minimalist guitars, vocals with a bit of harmony on it. It's a refined kind of ending, which worked as a closer. It's not a long album. These tracks are like 3.5 minutes, so it really doesn't overstay at all. Like, you'll zip through this no problem. And I could imagine putting this on when I'm in a specific kind of mood. If you're kind of looking to maybe just decompress a bit, it definitely works for that frame of mind. There's something about it that did make me feel quite peaceful when I was sitting listening to it. As an album, it's, the shoegaze characteristics are heavily there, so it does its job, in that respect. I wouldn't say I had any kind of like emotional connection to it. It never really hit me on that level, but there were a few elements that I really enjoyed, and there was songs that I just kind of sat and kind of just basked in it. I really like the way they interlaced the acoustic guitar actually on the album. I think that side of it was really cool. For me, it's like a kind of Sunday afternoon, headphones on, comfy chair, just kind of switch off, that kind of type of album. Nothing that I would say, wow, this is like end of year, like, exceptional, but a very easy listen and very enjoyable. Yeah, I would definitely come back and give it another spin later on. What about yourself? What did you think?
I think I like this a little bit more than you.
Okay.
So I don't mean that in a kind of like totally like, look at Dave. I think everything you've raised as not as a grievance, because that makes it sound a little bit more as an observation, maybe not inclined to your specific tastes at the time, are not wrong at all. Like, I do think they have a safe lane that they play for the majority of this album.
Yeah,
I kind of wanted to spend my time in that safe lane.
Right.
We've had an interesting year. We've reviewed a lot of really, really interesting and diverse stuff with bands that on any given song could be thrown you the biggest curveball before you hit the next song and be given another curveball, and genre be damned. And I've loved it. I've loved the code switching. I've loved all that stuff this year. But there's a part of me that does opine for just like a kind of belts and braces straight down the middle album that just gives me something that just makes me want to spend time in that world and just listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this album resides for me. It's interesting. Obviously, I don't read the PR, so we got a stream for this one, and I hate streams. I can't stress that enough. The stream was on SoundCloud, which I have an app for, so I'm fine. I'm not having to physically fucking deal with a web browser and all the shit that comes with that when you want to stream something on your phone. So that for me, from that point of view, was really, it made the pain go away a little bit. But I didn't read the press blurb in there; I just went straight to the link. So for me, I didn't realize Gleemer were from Colorado. So Americans know this, people in the UK don't. So that's Denver. And weirdly, this album made me feel very much the same way I did when I heard another Denver band a couple of years ago for Metal Epidemic. First time I heard Modern Way by Abrams, I was like instantly just in the album. And I ended up like spinning it to fucking death. And it never made my top 20. And I think I spoke about it like ad nauseum, and then over time the band, up to cadence of what they were releasing, and I was really excited about that, and we've kind of followed them since through their career. I kind of feel the same way about this, but for slightly different reasons. There is an Abrams quality in the sound here as well, in that I think it's an album that could live or die on the vocals in a lot of respects. The guitar work is excellent, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but how I connect to what the singer is doing is basically what makes me connected to the music. And there's a reason that like the vocals are all over this album. There aren't very many sections here where they just take a walk into a 1 minute instrumental. The vocals are the resonance in this, which is actually kind of weirdly anti-shoegaze. Like, shoegaze will spend a lot of time building up those layers of guitars and atmosphere before giving you that extra level of vocals, which can punctuate in and out. This is much more conventional of that, although it does lean.
There's like a pop kind of conventional kind of feel to this at times.
Definitely, and I think that's bore out. You hit the nail on the head. That's bore out with the song lengths.
Yeah.
Like this, like it's all single length. Every single track single length or shorter. They follow a formula. It is like intro, verse, chorus, right? It has that structure about it, which kind of actually makes it weirdly anti-shoegaze, but that dreamy quality that you get with that music is all through this. It's a wash through it without, once again, falling into the trappings. It's a very clean sounding album. Like, shoegaze albums are not always clean sounding albums. They're albums that are actually drenched in a lot of reverb and echo, and that's to kind of give you that feel of a kind of washer sound. Or they're designed in such a way where there isn't really a huge amount of space, and the production couldn't be any different here. This has got a very conventional, very clean, very crisp, very warm sounding production. So it's almost against the grain of what you would expect, but it evokes all the feelings. Like, the stuff that like instantly grabbed me on this one is I love the vocals on this one. I think they're really emotive, but they're also kind of lazy emotive. Like, I get that feeling. You mentioned lazy Sunday afternoon. I could imagine like the guy with a guitar on a rocking chair, just like strumming some things, and his friend beside him, just like tapping away on whatever's around. I just got that feeling of this just really relaxed kind of confidence in their songwriting. And I love the dexterity of the vocals. Like you mentioned before, there's a shift register into the baritone, which is really, really cool. It's not overused on the album. There's also kind of, and once again, you've stole a couple of my talking points here, but that kind of folksy sort of style of a kind of 40 Watson where there's a story being told here, and you just kind of like each song kind of feels like a point in time that's encapsulated by a song. I love that feel about it. The shift between acoustic guitars and something a little bit fuzzier is really well done here. Really, really well done. And the mastering and mixing on this, from a level perspective, never gives you that jolt. It doesn't feel like someone's pressing a pedal in and all of a sudden fucking is there. It never feels like that. And as a result, it's just it mellows it out even more. So drum production is straight up fucking lush. So clear, so distinct, just really kind of breathy. At times, this album specifically reminded me of some of the quieter moments by like Teenage Wrist, or even, and here's a curveball, like some of the quieter moments on Mountaineer. Like, say when Mountaineer like start playing with that kind of alternative kind of shoegazy vibe. There's not like a fucking massive gap between those elements here and what Gleemer are doing here as well. I do think there is a bit of a lull in the middle. I think from Proving Honest through to First Dream, there's a conscious choice to make things much kind of slower and kind of more dreamlike. But actually, on the listens that I've went through, those tracks tend to be shorter in length anyway. It's not an issue for me, is what I'm basically saying. I quite enjoy it because it picks back up from Not Stolen, which has a almost Smashing Pumpkins quality in the guitar work. through to Behaviour, which is a fucking just like straight up fire. And then right to the end, and you're right, it closes out very conventional. There is no twists and turns and a prog solo in the middle. You don't get that at the end. It sticks the landing.
Mm-hmm.
It set up expectation all the way through, and it delivers on that expectation. It's just a really, 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 really nice album to listen to.
Mm.
I love nasty shit, right? I love stuff that makes me pull stank face. I love the stuff that makes me like genuinely just sit there and go, I could spend 1,000 hours trying to creatively come up with the way you've linked styles in this, and I just couldn't do it. But I also have that little soft spot for something that just lands when I'm like that. I could listen to this anytime and I'd be content. And that's the word I would say. This is an album that made me feel content from start to finish. And there's a place in that in my record collection. And not many albums this year are actually in that. Whereas last year I felt like I was kind of spoiled for albums where I was like, I can just shove this on and listen to it whenever. This is my in-between death metal album. This year I haven't had a huge amount of them. And Gleemer have kind of hit that spot, and I didn't realise they were so far in their career as they are. That does kind of make me really interested to kind of delve back and check some stuff out. So yeah, I will see in the grades. I think I like this a little bit more than you did, but I don't think anything you've said is incorrect. I just think I'm maybe slightly more forgiving on this release than you are.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, so let's go to the scores. Yeah, I totally agree. It just feels like you just feel kind of comfortable listening to this, kind of wrapped in a wee warm blanket. Did it give me any surprises? Not really. But production-wise, thought it was really, really nice. Like a really, really nice.
For self-produced, this is like even more ridiculous than the fact that those guys did that as well. So
overall, I'll probably go 3.5. It's enjoyable album. I think like my issue is like when I start to compare it to some of the other shoegaze stuff I've heard this year, there's there's other things that I just feel are just way up there for me. And this one, I imagine I'll come back to it at some point, just when the kind of mood strikes. But yeah, enjoyable. 3.5 for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, I thought that might be where you were landing from what you said, and my assumption was correct that I'm slightly above you. It's a 4 for me. I just really, really, really enjoy this, and Gleemer have made a fan of me. I will be listening to this album for a long, long, long time.
Nice. So that is Gleemer's End of the Nail, out on December 6th on Other People Records. I'll put a link below to the band and their Bandcamp page and a single as well, so you can check it out. Let us know what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on the new album from Gleemer. That is our review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
What's mine was stolen. That fairness is of mine.